The woman was able to easily pierce a chalk stick into a wooden post with just 2 fingers. The young man, however, looked down on her ability, and immediately demonstrated real Shaolin Kung Fu. He struck the chalk with his wrist power, and the chalk pierced through the wooden post, continuing to penetrate several other wooden posts. Seeing the young man's impressive skill, the woman refused to back down, believing that she could also pierce through several wooden posts with all her strength. But the next second, the wooden post instantly shattered, leaving everyone stunned by the scene before them. It turned out that the young man was the #1 supreme power on the divine ranking. However, he considered it a trash ranking, and the water he casually released shattered the ranking list. When the abbot arrived, he saw the broken divine ranking and the footprints on the ground, instantly realizing that the powerful being had been there, and that his strength had already reached the divine realm. Yet they were unaware that this powerful being was a disciple of Shaolin Temple. At that moment, the young man was resting in the back mountain, when he accidentally bumped into a stone, turning it to powder. His fellow disciples looked down on him, saying he spent his days pretending to practice driving stakes. Just then, someone from the God of War Palace arrived. This person was the Saintess's maid. She had come to help the Saintess find the young man, saying the Saintess intended to annul their engagement, and hoped the young man would cooperate. Saying this, she picked up a nearby chalk stick, and easily pierced it into the wooden post, claiming that if the young man didn't agree, she could easily take his life. However, the young man looked down on her meager skills, stating that finger techniques required wrist power. He then slapped the chalk, making it pierce through several wooden posts in succession. The maid originally refused to back down, but the next second, she saw all the wooden posts shatter, leaving her completely stunned. At that moment, the Saintess descended from the sky. Walking toward the young man, she took out a marriage certificate and stepped on it, declaring that as long as the young man agreed to annul the engagement, she would allow him to join the God of War Palace as a servant disciple, as compensation for him. But the young man refused to agree to the annulment, unless he could abandon the Saintess himself. Seeing the young man's arrogance, the maid wanted to teach him a lesson but was easily repelled. The Saintess, seeing this, drew her long sword and pointed it at the young man, unleashing a powerful surge of energy. The abbot and the disciples couldn't resist it, while the young man stood firm, unscathed. The Saintess found it unbelievable, so she unleashed another burst of sword energy. This time, the young man was directly blasted away, ultimately fainting on the ground. To save the young man's life, the abbot had no choice but to agree to the annulment, hoping the Saintess would spare him. The Saintess had never intended to kill the young man, but discovered that he could disrupt her state of mind, which could help her in her training to reach the semi-divine realm. She decided to take the young man back to the God of War Palace, even though the abbot and others refused to agree. No one in the entire Shaolin Temple could stop the Saintess. At that moment, the young man's soul left his body, and entered a deep-sea environment, instantly recalling his mission. It turned out that the young man's mother was a deity suppressing the divine order. However, her mind was suddenly controlled by evil forces, turning her into a fierce serpent demon. Before going mad, she asked her son to seal her, to prevent her from bringing harm to the world. She then instructed her son to take her place, and go to Mount Song's Shaolin Temple to suppress the divine order. The son, reluctant to see his mother die, hesitated to act, until his mother angrily scolded him for being disobedient. He had no choice but to reluctantly agree, and ultimately, with tears in his eyes, he began the sealing spell to seal his mother.